Recently, Michael and I stumbled on a cool vlog by a YouTuber called Adam the Woo, and we wanted to go check out some of the sites that he showed because they are not too far from where we live. That's how we found this cute little unincorporated community called Kenansville in Osceola County, Florida. Kenansville is about 60 miles south of Orlando and about halfway between the areas of Hollow Paw and the historic Yeehaw Junction going south on State Road 441. It may be tiny, but it is packed full of cool historical sites. Prior to the arrival of a now defunct railroad system, a large farming community called Whittier existed in this area dating back to the late 1800s. The town mostly centered around raising cattle and providing services for travelers passing through. The soil in the area is sandy and drains poorly, and it is still used as rangeland today. In 1910, a man named Henry Flagler was surveying a route for a railroad system in this area, and he made a deal with the settlement of Whittier. Henry Flagler had been a partner of John D. Rockefeller and had made a fortune in Standard Oil. After retirement, Flagler focused his business skills in Florida and is credited with truly opening Florida up to tourism. He began with big hotels in St. Augustine. Then he built a railroad and continued to extend his hotel and railroad empire south down the east coast of Florida until he made his way all the way to Key West. His projects and invested capital in the 1880s through 1912 transformed Florida forever. These historical markers are for Illahaw and Nittall Station. Illahaw was a small turpentine operation located here. It had a post office in 1923, which closed in 1935, and once all the pine trees in the area were cut down, the sawmill closed. Be very careful if you visit this area. I sustained about 5 fire ant bites just from walking around not looking where I was stepping. It's a little bit dangerous, so maybe stick to the road or the picnic area. We are thinking the old train track was, well, it's on the other side of these bushes now, but we can see where the ground is packed really flat and straight and actually has like a track in some places. So I know there used to be a train track that paralleled these roads. That's actually what created Yeehaw Junction in the first place. Now they're roads. You can kind of see it here.
Just on the other side of the fence line.
I'm pretty sure that was the old train track, but I could be wrong. I could totally be wrong. There's not a lot of indicators now to show you exactly where it was, but since this originally was where 2 train tracks intersected, I'm going to guess that's where it was. This is just me showing you how wild and undeveloped this area of Florida is, and Michael and I were trying to figure out exactly where the old train tracks were. We're kind of assuming they were running parallel to, or the road was actually built to run parallel to the train tracks, and they're no longer here. And in a lot of places off to the right-hand side, you can see what looks like the grass isn't growing, or maybe just, dirt or gravel or something. So we're kind of trying to figure out where was the train track, and we're following right alongside it, I think. In 1910, Henry Flagler was surveying the area of Whittier for a route for his Okeechobee spur of his Florida East Coast Railroad. He made a deal with Whittier. He would bring the railroad near their town to help with the turpentine and cattle operations if they would rename their town Kenansville in honor of Flagler's third and current wife, Mary Lily Keenan Flagler. Henry also promised that if the town followed through, he would donate $10,000 to the construction of a new school. Most Floridians know Kenansville as the location of this Army Green hotel known as the Heartbreak Hotel. A legend has claimed that Elvis Presley stayed here and his experience inspired him to write his famous radio hit. That is highly unlikely, as Elvis was not known for writing his own songs, and credit for the song Heartbreak Hotel is actually given to Tommy Durden and May Boren Axton. It's much more likely that the current owner of the hotel at the time heard the song and liked it enough to rename his establishment after it. The hotel is currently being renovated by a local landowner. Henry Flagler's first wife passed away young, and his second wife was institutionalized due to a mental illness. When Flagler met Mary Lily Keenan, he was still married to his second wife, but he was head over heels in love and wanted to get remarried. In those days, getting a divorce in Florida was very difficult. Flagler convinced the Florida legislature to pass a bill allowing a person to get a legal divorce if their spouse is declared mentally ill. This was quite the scandal at the time. However, Flagler and Keenan were married and lived happily ever after in their mansion in Palm Beach. The first state bank of Kenansville was chartered in 1914. Mary Keenan Flagler was the bank's first depositor. It stood as a symbol of prosperity in this area until the Great Depression, when it was liquidated. During the 1950s, the building became a grocery store operated by a man named Minor Jones Jr., who filled it full of mounted animal heads. Rumor has it that Jones made more off his living poaching than from the sale of groceries. I wasn't surprised that this bank was not open when we drove through the area because it was a Sunday. But I don't know if it's ever open to the public, and if so, what the days and operating hours are. The marquee out front did not have any information, but the bank looks like it's got a fairly recent paint job, and the parking lot is maintained, so they clearly plan for people to come visit. I'm not sure if this is a museum at this point, if it's privately owned, if maybe it's open during the week. It doesn't seem to be operational as a bank. But I would really love to know more about what you could do to see the inside of it, because it looked like there were some pretty cool and antique artifacts in there. Out behind the bank, in a weird location on the back lot, is this lamp post with a bunch of dragon heads around it holding up the bulbs. I was not able to find any information about this online. I'm only assuming that it was here with the original construction of the building. I love things like this. I always wish I knew more about why this is here, who wanted a dragon lamp, who built it. But here you go. This is really super cool, but I can't give you any more information about it. Like I had mentioned, this bank has had a fairly recent paint update, which is a little bit of a shame because as you see in these little windows, that have been either bricked over or maybe they were just faux windows all along. There's some pretty intricate tile work on them, but originally it was much more clear and there was different colors to make a contrast. But you can see the year 1914, when the bank, I guess, was first opened, is actually there in the tile, in addition to a little model of the bank created out of tile. But back in the day, I know that these colors were a little bit more brightly obvious as to what it is, and now it's either been painted over or the paint has just sun bleached and faded with time. Thankfully, the tile work right in front of the front door still looks pretty sharp. Henry Flagler died in 1913 after falling down a flight of stairs in his Palm Beach mansion. The name Kenansville was given to the town in 1914. Mary Flagler kept her husband's promise, and in 1914 she donated 5 acres of land as well as $6,000 for a brand new brick schoolhouse, which was completed in 1917. For a time, the school was recognized as one of Florida's most outstanding rural schools. The school declined after the railway service ended in 1947 and finally closed in 1961. It reopened briefly from 1992 to 2003. The school and a post office from the early 1900s are open to the public on this site here, although all the doors are locked and secured. It is free to walk in as it is marked with a historical marker and to walk around. It's a very beautiful little building, but I don't know a whole lot about it other than the years that it was in operation and the number of students that came and went over time. I do know, just from having watched other YouTube videos, that there did used to be other pieces of farm equipment out here in front. I think this pump is the only thing that was left, but there was at least some sort of a hoeing apparatus that maybe you would haul behind a horse or a donkey or something at one time, just for the public to see. If this school is ever open, I don't have any hours for that. I did look online, but I can't find hours for this school. It may just be a museum you can look at from the outside. Most of the windows had curtains or there was very little to see inside. So I'm thinking that the interior of the building may actually not be a museum. With us arriving here on a Sunday, I wasn't expecting it to be open anyway, but I did think there might be a sign out front letting you know if it is a museum, when you could come in or come back to see it, but I didn't see any sign like that, and the same goes for the post office. This post office was absolutely immaculate on the inside, so someone is absolutely keeping up with this place, maintaining it and keeping it clean. But it was really cool that you could see both sides of the mail room, the side that the postmaster would be on, putting all the mail in the individual slots, and then if a person walked in through the door and they could go up to their mailbox with their key and unlock it and get their mail out. I thought that was really neat in a post office as antique as this one to be able to see what both sides of the mail room look like. So looking through the windows was really cool. I'm so glad that I was able to see so much, and hats off to whoever is keeping this post office in tip-top shape. It really makes me proud. This is Michael's footage with the GoPro. I always like to include whatever footage he took, even when it's a repeat of what I've already taken. Because sometimes he sees things I missed, and sometimes I see things he missed. But he told me he did go around the property and he tried every single doorknob just to see if any chance any of them was unlocked. I probably would not have wanted to go inside, even if we had found that one was accidentally left unlocked, just because this is clearly a well-maintained property and I wouldn't want to, start the trend of trespassing. But fortunately, everything did seem to be completely locked up and secure. So he just wandered around and took pretty much the same views that I took. We each went a different direction. I started with the school, he started with the post office. You will notice, since he is using the GoPro, that it's harder to see inside the windows. That GoPro doesn't adjust to low lighting nearly as well as my iPhone does. However, I like some things about the GoPro footage. I just think it's really cool, kind of that fisheye effect on either side of the screen, where the lens bows just a little bit. I think it makes it kind of cool that it's being shot with an adventure camera. And I like this. I wish he had actually gotten the entire schoolhouse reflection in the window. I thought that was super cool. He was not impressed that I rang the bell. It was his decision to walk right past it and not touch it. That thing is so antique, and after I rang it, I realized how heavy it was, and if it had fallen on my head or my foot, I would have been screwed. So he was the smart person. He kept his hands off the bell no matter how tempting it was. If anybody wants an update as far as Kenansville in 2023, I can tell you this: the town declined in importance when the railroad spur was pulled out in 1947. The train tracks and the train depot are all gone now. On August 3rd of 2016, the Osceola Solar Facility opened halfway between Kenansville and St. Cloud as part of Duke Energy's plan to switch over to more solar and less coal sources of power. The facility takes up 17 acres of land and can provide approximately 3.6 megawatts at full power for 760 homes. In 2020, the United States Census lists the population of Kenansville at 453 people, with a density of 1.3 persons per square mile. The median age in Kenansville is 52, with the number of people per household at 2.1. I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that this is probably a time capsule buried in the yard in front of the school. So let's all reconvene in 2039 and see what those kids buried, shall we? All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. I have told you everything I know about Kenansville, Florida, and I will see you another day in another adventure.